Welcome to Podcast of All Podcasts. Enjoy best moments of podcast history.
Well, Reverend, please come quick. 'Cause I got something to admit. I met a man out in the sticks, a good old miss. He drove a Series 10 Cadillac and wore a cigar on his lip. Don't you know the devil wears a suit and tie? Saw him driving down the 61 in early July. White as the cotton field and sharp as a knife. I heard him howling as he passed me by. He said, I know you, young man. Well, I know you by the state of your hands. You're a six-string picker, just as I am. Well, let me learn you some. I know a few tunes to make all the girls dance. Don't you know the devil wears a suit and tie? Saw him driving down the 61 in early July. White as the cotton field and sharp as a knife. I heard him howling as he passed me by. Oh, foolish was I. Damn my foolish eyes. That man's lessons how to price the sweet price. My sweet soul everlasting, my very own eternal light. Don't you know that the devil wears a suit and tie? Saw him driving down the 61 in early July. White as the cotton field and sharp as a knife. I heard him howling as he passed me by. Well, the devil wears a suit and tie. Saw him driving down the 61 in early July. White as the cotton field and sharp as a knife. I heard him howling as he passed me by.
Brennan Schaub, Bryan Callen, Danny Gould.
Yeah, it's very hard to make a movie without Iron Man in it. It's hard to get a movie funded unless Iron Man's in it, you know.
Yeah, if you put Danish Girl and Spider-Man together, you got a blockbuster.
Yeah.
Like, it's literally like either something like that has to do with, you know, gays and that stuff,
right?
Or it's action with superstars.
If I wrote a show about a bipolar trans woman struggling with her sobriety,
that happens to fight crime at night.
Right.
You're going to win an Oscar.
Zombies. If I just wrote that, I get an Oscar. If I added that she was a monster hunter, then people would actually watch it. So it's all in what you do. But these things go in cycles, and there are reasons I think that zombies are very popular now. Horror movies and science fiction movies tend to reflect the times that they're in.
Meaning,
well, I'll give you an example. Frankenstein, when it came out in the early 30s, it was very, very popular, and it was really a story of like the ascent of the industrial age. Frankenstein was made by machines. He was not a human being. He was made by machines, and that was a big existential concern at the time. Was the beginning of the industrial age. And then the Depression and World War II, people just needed escapism, and that's why during those years, the Wolfman, Dracula, all those movies came out because people just wanted to think about anything but what was going on outside.
Yeah.
With the Depression and World War II, life was scary enough. They wanted to go to a weird time and see a mummy or a Wolfman or just something that took them out of the terror of their regular life.
Sure.
In the 50s, the big fear was that we were going to get into a nuclear war, with an atomic war with Russia. The Cold War was all about the Cold War following World War II, whether or not the United States and the Soviet Union were going to obliterate each other with atomic weapons. And all of those, that's when you get all those giant spider, giant bug movies, Them, Praying Mantis, War of the Worlds. It was all about either the effects of atomic radiation, Godzilla,
yeah.
or an alien invasion, War of the Worlds, The Day the Earth Stood Still, Earth versus the Flying Saucers. But those are all just analogies for communism, which was the big fear at the time. In the 80s, you had all of these weird movies. You had a lot of vampire movies and a lot of werewolf movies. And all these Freddy Krueger things. It was all about The Fly. A lot of the movies. Yeah, and here's the interesting thing about Aliens. In Alien, the trick with the aliens is the monster came out of your guts, that you incubated the monster. And that was a quintessentially 80s movie because the anxiety in the 80s was AIDS and other diseases. And you couldn't trust your own body anymore. And The Fly is a great example of an 80s horror movie, that you can no longer trust your own body. And I think now, and this goes to what we were talking about before with, people feel like life is cheap. With the advent of globalization, people, their job doesn't pay what it used to pay. Mm-hmm. Everybody, including myself, is working 5 times as hard for 1/3 the money. Mm-hmm. And life is cheap. And people feel dehumanized. And what is more evocative of that than walkers or zombies? Just people who mean nothing, that are worth nothing.
Damn, I never thought of this,
they get slaughtered en masse. And people, I think, are able to process that anxiety by watching that. I think that's why these things, they sort of echo the time that they're in.
That's fascinating because zombies now are kind of the big.
They're ubiquitous now. Yeah,
you put a zombie in a movie or show, you're good.
Yeah, and it's funny, but people put like the first great zombie movie. I mean, zombies go back to the 20s, and there was I Walked with a Zombie was made in 1944 or 46 by Val Lewton, but it wasn't a zombie what you think of today. It was a true Haitian voodoo ritual zombie. I mean, that's
where they started, correct?
Yeah, well, zombies really are purportedly the Walking Dead created from a voodoo ceremony in Haiti, and there were all sorts of movies about that. I Walked with a Zombie. It's a real thing. The best example is The Serpent and the Rainbow, which is about the true story of the guy that went to Haiti and investigated how this thing really works. Because there really is purportedly zombies in Haiti. It's a religious.
And now they think they're in New Orleans, like started in New Orleans, because a lot of Haitians
and
are in New Orleans.
It's all a shell game and stuff. Mm-hmm. But it's at some point along the line that became what we know of as walkers, and that really goes to Night of the Living Dead, which George Romero made in 1968. Now, at the time, it was made in black and white. And George Romero got a lot of credit and critical applause because they said it was a satire of Vietnam, because it was a low-budget movie and it looked like Vietnamese war footage of people getting mowed down, and it was all about the cheapening of human life, the inhumanity of war, and he got all of this acclaim for it. And then he quietly said, it's black and white because it was cheap.
Yeah.
And it looks cheap because it is cheap.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, people tend to go back and put on, give things credit that they weren't really aiming for it at the begin with. But if it fits, it fits. And, you know, maybe the movie was so successful at that time because it resonated with people that could be go. That's one of the reasons that Star Trek is so popular, because in Star Trek, things work out. You know, in Star Trek, it's the 23rd century and we're still here and we all get along and we've made it off the Earth. And, you know, I think one of the reasons that people love Star Trek so much is it's very hopeful. It's not Planet of the Apes.
I don't want to live on that ship all my life.
Yeah, or wear this. I don't want to wear spandex.
Yeah, they
very unforgiving.
They dress terrible.
Yeah,
there's just
bad
not
hair.
much going on. Yeah,
yeah, but humanity's still around, and I think that that's one of the reasons that Star Trek is so successful. Certainly, Stand Against Evil, not so optimistic.
And that's why people are obsessed with space and stuff like that, because it's optimistic.
It's optimistic, yeah. Days like this when you think, I got to get out of here.
Well, Elon Musk's trying to get us to Mars.
Yeah.
So I'm sure some people are signing up for that a little extra early
Yeah.
now.
I have a feeling the first person to think of going to the moon was maybe the first, like, sort of primitive man that got married. And after a couple of months, he just walked outside, looked at the moon, and thought, I got to get up there.
There has to be something more
I
than
got to
that.
get out of here.
And it made it happen. How hard is it to write, especially now with computer-generated graphics, stuff like that?
Uh-huh.
It's so much more of a challenge. I was talking to a gentleman who he won whatever it is, an Oscar Academy Award for, or I think it was Academy Award for his work on Interstellar. And he's talking about,
wow.
and he builds models.
Who is it? Lou Zudavern?
No. I worked with him on a show. I did a pilot for history, and he was on one of the
Was it Mars?
judges on the show. It'll come to me.
Were you on Mars,
No.
that show?
No.
Oh.
No.
I know a lot of these guys.
Yeah,
That's
yeah,
why.
yeah. So he's
clearly.
one of those guys, and he worked on all the Batmans.
Oh, great.
Ian. I think his first
Okay,
name's
yeah,
Ian.
yeah. I know a guy named Lou Zudavern who does the same thing. I'm sure Lou knows.
There's three of them that I think they're business partners in the same
Yeah.
studio. So he was just talking about how, I said, dude, how do you even stay relevant? How do you make money? Because you're building models and you're the brontosaurus. for lack of a better term.
Yeah, absolutely.
And he goes, I get that. And he goes, and actually a lot of these places have shut down. He goes, but what makes us special is with people with these screens getting larger with IMAX and 3D and stuff like that, and you have the computer generated graphics, the pixels can only go so big. At the same time, you can't recreate blowing up a ship
Right.
like blowing up a ship with computers. He goes, so we specialize in that, in the detail.
Right.
And it's also, he goes, the thing with us is we need a heads up, though. A lot of times studios goes, we want to do this. And computer generated guy can do that like this.
Yeah, our show, the effects are practical. We had cleanup, but we like pulling out wires and stuff. But all the monsters are giant puppets or guys in very elaborate suits. We have a guy, a spider demon. Tonight we have a pig demon, and they're all practical for two reasons. One, because it's also a comedy. It's a very tricky inside baseball kind of thing. The comedy and horror each require separate but equal suspensions of disbelief. You know, it's like comedy works in a heightened reality, horror works in a heightened reality, but they have to play together. They have to play on the same field together. And I find that works only when you absolutely positively believe what you're seeing.
Yes.
A guy seeing a pig demon, and the reason the show's funny is when a guy sees a pig demon, he shrieks and runs in the way that somebody really would. In a horror movie, a guy would see a pig demon and gasp and grab something to fight it.
Yeah.
In my show, they see him and they scream and they run.
Because that's real life.
Because that's real life, and that's why it's funny. But you wouldn't buy that if the pig demon looked fake. And the way I differentiate CGI to practical effects. I think Roger Ebert said this about stop motion animation versus Pixar. Where he said, stop motion animation looks fake, but it feels real. Whereas Pixar looks real, but it feels fake.
Correct.
And
That's
it
fair.
needs to feel real.
You guys
for
get a
the
little
comedy to
leeway, though,
work.
yeah? Being a comedy horror TV show, I'm not going to tune in and expect to see, the same graphics or kind of screenplay that I see on, name a huge budget movie. Does that make sense?
No,
like
you're
you
not.
being a comedy horror IFC, like you're going to get a little bit of leeway there.
Well, yeah, I mean, the monsters aren't funny and they're not comical, but
They shouldn't be, right? Like
right.
that's
because you blow the gag.
Then it's over,
You
yeah.
blow the gag, but it has a kind of a low budget horror movie feel to it. But because it is, because it's a low budget.
But that's also why it works, though, correct?
I think
that feeling's why it works.
Yeah, Army of Darkness had a much bigger budget than Evil Dead 2. I think Evil Dead 2 is the better movie.
Correct.
I
agree 100%.
Return of the Jedi had a much bigger budget than Star Wars. Star Wars is the better movie. It's not the budget, it's the story you're telling.
I agree. I think, especially you being a horror buff and me too, I'll go to any movie. I don't care what the plot is. Usually the previews get me. I'm like, I just like horror in general. I'll see all of them if I have time. And when I go to it, I'm thinking how difficult it is to actually scare the audience now, because with computer generated graphics and these huge budgets, you can't fake, and especially if you're doing straight horror and scary movie, a thriller especially, you can't do fake. There can't be any sense of, oh, God, that looks like shit, man. There's no way. You look at another horror TV series that one of my favorites, I don't know if you watch, it's on FX, American Horror Story.
Yeah.
You look at this last season, and, there's these townspeople who murder the people that live there, that bought the house, and the butcher and her people. And there's a pig guy. He's kind of a guy with an actual pig head on.
Yeah.
It's some scary shit, man.
Yeah.
But now if that pig guy had on some bullshit hat or something like that, you're not gonna be as scared.
Yeah, no, you're right.
It's so tough to pull off scary, I think, this day and age, because people, especially kids. Like Bryan and I were talking about this. I have an 8-month-old son. He has a 5 or 6-year-old and an 8-year-old. And him telling stories, they're like, Dad, will you shut up? I'm just going to turn on my iPad here and I see some real shit.
Yeah.
You're talking about Beauty and the Beast. I'm just going to turn on Pixar here, which is real as shit.
It's so funny, my oldest daughter's 14 years old, and she loved Walking Dead's her favorite show. She likes Walking Dead and Doctor Who. Like, she's a really cool, kind of nerdy
It's
kid.
kind of cool.
And her sister's cool too, but
Sister's all right.
sister's very
Definitely have a favorite.
not a horror movie buff, like much more normal kid. Her sister's gonna end up making a lot more money, I'm sure. But my oldest is really into horror movies, and I thought, well, you're a young girl, you'd love Buffy. It's very empowering. It's very and she is just like watched like 10 minutes, and she goes, Dad, I can't do these special effects. I can't do it.
These special effects.
It just looked
at 14.
Early CGI, and it just looks so fake.
Looks
She's like,
terrible.
Nah, I can't do it, Dad.
But back then we didn't know. Like you watch
back
back,
then it
I was
was
like, God,
amazing.
it's so real.
Yeah.
It's like I grew up on Tales from the Crypt.
Sure.
And I loved it. Watching an old episode of Tales from the Crypt now, you're like, Jesus, man.
Yeah. But there are certain things that, because it's all, and I think that, again, it's early CG, but the practical stuff is timeless because it's real. The reason John Carpenter's The Thing is as great today as it was when it came out in 1982 is because everything you're looking at is really on the set.
Yeah.
It's all practical. There's nothing to look fake. It's really there. Same with An American Werewolf in London.
Correct. And I was going to say that, and to your point, also The Shining.
Excellent.
You can watch The Shining whenever you want. Now you could watch it in 2030. It's still scary as hell.
Same with Planet of the Apes, made in 1968. The only thing that kind of dates Planet of the Apes is the hippie ape at the end. Hey, man.
Hey, man. Yeah, it's super. Come
Always
on.
giving orders, just like every other adult. Like some groovy hippie ape from the Laugh-In came in.
I actually think the original Planet of the Apes might be even better than the ones that come out now.
Well,
It's almost too
the
much
original
now.
Planet of the Apes is pretty much
Classic.
a perfect movie.
Yes.
Yeah, pretty much a perfect movie. That's like when they remade it, I was like, why do you remake a bad movie and make it good?
But
Don't
that's the
remake
thing.
a great movie.
That's the theme of your industry, right? Like they it's almost like they run out of ideas or they're bad pitches or something
Yeah.
like that. And they just go, let's try this, and it's a movie that was for that.
Yo, they just
someone's already
remade
done.
Ben-Hur. Ben-Hur does not need to be remade. Find a crappy movie and remake that.
I heard Ben Affleck's in Gone with the Wind.
Are they remaking?
I'm just
Gone with
kidding.
the-
No, I don't know.
See,
But
I believe
that doesn't
you.
surprise
I
you.
totally believe you.
Yes,
No,
how
I totally
crazy is
believe you.
that?
I would like to remake Mars Attacks. I would like to make Mars Attacks funnier. I love Mars Attacks. I love the idea of it. I wish it had more jokes. I wish it had better jokes. I like to
Great
remake Mars
actors, though.
Attacks.
It's such a great cast.
But they're trying to be funny.
I agree.
If the people in Mars Attacks were acting as if they were in Independence Day.
Yes.
And then the Martians were those, that would have been much funnier. It's like when you tell a joke, you need a straight man and you need the funny guy. You know,
Yes.
two guys walk into a bar. There's nothing funny about that.
No.
You've got to set the stage to let the joke come.
The best advice I ever got was from my partner Bryan Callen. We shot this comedy series together, and Bryan said the key to this is try not to be funny. Try not to be
Absolutely.
funny. Because when we
Absolutely.
first started, you know, I'm new to the business, and you know, it was a comedy show, sitcom that we released, and and he's like, it's too much, man. You're trying to be funny.
Yeah.
But let them find the funny. The
Yeah,
funny
yeah.
is going to be you playing this as real as possible.
What's your
and it was the
favorite-
best advice I ever got.
Absolutely. What's your favorite comedy movie?
Dumb and Dumber,
Really?
probably.
That's great.
Yeah.
I love those guys.
Yeah. Dumb and Dumber, or
Have you ever had those guys on, Peter and Bob Farrelly?
We haven't.
Oh, they're
We
the
haven't.
best.
I'd love to have them on.
Oh, I can hook you up.
yeah,
with
I'd love
those
that. Those
They're
guys.
the greatest.
Something about Mary.
Oh, that's so great.
Yeah.
Now, Peter, I think Bobby lives in Rhode Island, but Peter lives up here. I know them very well, oddly, and they're the nicest guys in the world.
But to your point, when you think about Dumb and Dumber, you think about something about Mary. They're playing as real as possible. Think about the scene when
You gotta
walk-
buy it. You gotta buy it.
You got to buy in, because
Yeah, you gotta buy it.
when I first saw something about Mary with my dad, and I was like 10, whatever, and even my dad was laughing, but
Yeah.
it was so awkward. Because remember when he's jacking off, and then he's like, "Where the
Yeah, that's a pretty pivotal part of that movie.
yeah, that's the movie you walk away from."
Yeah.
And then she's like, "Is that hair gel?" But he's playing that so real, and
Totally.
you can feel like, oh my
Yeah.
god, that could actually happen. That's what makes that so.
I
great.
remember seeing Monty Python's Life of Bryan, and we were 14 and too young to go because it was rated R, but my friend's mom took us in. And we were sitting there, and then a woman walks in just completely naked, full frontal nudity, which none of us had ever seen before. And we're just like, right next to my friend's mom. Oh, my.
So awkward.
Yeah,
I remember
crazy.
We used to we'd watch movies all the time with my dad every Friday night, and he'd take us to the movie store, he'd pick out a movie, and if there was a part like that, I remember in RoboCop where he gets shot 1 jagillion times. How he survived, I have no idea.
Right.
Obviously, he turned him into a robot, but I remember my dad would always make
that's
us,
how he survived. They
Yeah,
turned him into a robot.
obviously he's a robot cop now.
like you would do now.
RoboCop, obviously, that's how it came about.
Adam Carolla with Pete Holmes.
Be reasonable. There's no fucking hell. Don't want to be wrong about that one. If there is a hell, I don't think the worst part will be the torture. I think the worst part would be that we don't get breaks to talk about the torture. I think that's what would make it hell. Like if they would blow a whistle every 20 minutes, we all just gather in a common area, drink boiling water. Just like, what are they doing to you? It's like, oh yeah, I'm in a room with millions of little crabs. It's like tiny little crabs and they're eating me real slow and they're like, oh yeah, with the little nibbles? Yeah, the little nibbles.
Pete Holmes on the Adam Carolla Show.
Pete Holmes, Dirty Clean, name of the special, available on HBO and HBO Go. I watch it last night, actually. Filmed at the Aladdin Theater, same place I filmed my special in Portland. Good to see you, Pete Holmes.
Good to see you. I love Portland.
I do too. How did you land on Aladdin in Portland to shoot the special?
Well, I wonder how you feel. For me, it's not just the theater. It is partly the theater. And it was very casual for me. I was like, I remember I was like an old man. I was like, I remember Portland and the Aladdin Theater. And then I got there. It looked nothing like I remembered. I was like, oh, it was smaller than I remembered. Still perfect. But it's really about the city. I want to be in a city that makes me feel comfortable. I want there to be like nice food. And Portland looks like a train set, like a punk rock train set.
Right.
So it's cozy and fun.
Yeah,
so
I
that's
agree.
more important to me than like the space even.
The special is very funny. Pete, you can tell, is on his feet doing crashing, like really getting his reps. Like you can really tell that. I don't know. It's weird how I'm trying to think of how to compliment you, but I mean,
I like reps. This is as close as I've gotten to someone who works out.
I mean, there's just no substitute for getting up on stage and like doing material. And you normally don't want to do it, but I've always complimented you that crashing is so realistic. Like the material in crashing is very good stand-up material that either Pete does or other comedians do, and you can really see it in this special.
I really appreciate that. Somebody said stand-up is the only art form where if you don't do it for 2 weeks, you forget how, which I think is interesting. I also think it's interesting. I wonder if you'll like this. I always say stand-up is like your wife, and other like shows like Crashing, even though I'm completely in love with it, it's my mistress. So you have to stay in touch with your wife. I know that's kind of like an antiquated example. I don't want anyone cheating on their husbands or their wives, especially given the premise of my show.
Right.
But I like staying true to the art form. Crashing is about becoming a comic. And here I am a comic. I don't want to throw that away. I want to stay involved. And also doing stand-up on Crashing is different because they're background actors. Right. So I want to get in front of... They're not allowed to talk. If I say, hey, where are you from? And they say Orlando, we owe you $1,100 in a SAG card.
Now they're in under 5.
Yeah, exactly. You just got an upgrade because I did crowd work to you. So doing it for real human people, especially in Portland, for a special was a thrill.
Well, you always root for Pete Holmes because he's one of the good ones.
Oh, that's very sweet.
And in a world where I know, like traditionally, comedians don't all root for each other. Pete Holmes, very easy to root for.
Oh, that's very kind of you. I try to root for others. That's a little bit what Crashing is about. People call, you can say caca and the bullshit and stuff. People call bullshit sometimes on the idea that comedians help each other. But here you are, Adam, you're helping me. And I know I have a TV show, but I believe there's a spirit of that going on beneath our gruff exteriors, that if you do stand-up, we have something in common. Like you've done something that sort of inducted you into some weird club, and we want to help each other. The good ones do. There's some assholes for sure. Yeah. But like our show is built on the idea that I'm a struggling comedian, and all these like Bill Burr, Sarah Silverman, they all help out. And I actually think that's a real thing. Like here I am, last minute on the Adam Carolla show.
Artie Lang someone tweeted me. He's in rehab. He's in trouble. I know he's always on the show. Everyone roots for Artie Lang.
I know.
I think
he's another.
Everyone's a fan of Artie Lang, and I feel like he's his own worst enemy. For obviously. Sure. Do you have any thoughts? Any insights? What do you know? I know Artie well. You wonder, is this sort of demon that's like almost inside of him, can it ever be purged?
It does feel 1692, doesn't it?
Yes.
Like if Artie was churning butter, we'd all be like, the specter has him.
Right.
And we'd all be blowing like burnt leaves at him or something.
Yes.
Those are the best ideas we have.
I get why people back in the day felt like, before functional MRIs and stuff like that, felt like there's a demon inside because he feels like possessed. Like he's such a great guy, so talented, he's so funny, so whatever. I mean, there's a lot of these people that we all have stories of, some family members and stuff like that, but this weird sort of thing. And I don't know how you give, Dr. Drew always says, how do you give someone get it? Like, how does he get it?
How do you give someone get it?
How do you get him to go, I get it?
Oh,
like,
I
no
see.
more.
Well,
like,
a demon is actually an interesting metaphor, right? It's a part of him. It's inside of him, and it's lying to him. It's like stealing from him and lying to him. That's basically what an old-timey demon might be. So that is how I think about it. Obviously, my heart breaks for the guy, but I don't think it's a rational change. I've told Artie, I've been like, you should do one of those Venezuela ayahuasca things where like it's going to be horrible.
Right.
It's going to be, you're going to hate it.
So much vomit and
Yeah,
diarrhea.
you're going to be shooting it out both ends, wiping with a huge leaf that we don't have here. And maybe on the other end, you'd go like, it was all about Rosebud. Like you'd figure out. Because I think it's not. He knows. He's so smart. He's also really professional and really kind and really funny.
I know. That's the part that does it. And also if you are going to go on one of these retreats, ayahuasca retreats or whatever, you should hope Mila Kunis shows up in your tent and not Artie Lang.
That is,
you know what I mean? Like if we're going for celebrities that are finding themselves, you want yourself some Mila Kunis and not so much your Artie Lang.
I'll settle for a Krasinski. I don't.
John would be fine.
Not Artie.
As long as it's not Artie.
Dominic Monaghan loves to do it. He can show up.
Have you seen Dirty Work? And he's just like vomiting next to you.
Any Culkin.
I don't know. I'll take Rory.
Married again.
Yeah,
right.
Just
Recently
got married,
in the stand-up, young child.
Yes, so I talk about my wife having some big old titties, which is a funny way to say it. I'm not a big old titties kind of guy, but I say it for fun. And my mother-in-law, I wonder if I can read it. I think she just said something about like Valerie's always had big breasts. Like, please stop watching my shit, please. That's not even the worst. 2 specials ago, I had a bit about. I don't want to be friends with my father-in-law. This is before I even met Valerie. But I was like, what, are we going to hang out?
Right.
What, are we going to go bowling? Right. I fuck your daughter.
Right.
I fuck your daughter. We're going to go see Elf at the midnight screening. I go down on your daughter. And I know they've seen that bit. And now they have a bit about my wife having big old titties. This is our job. This is what the money's for. B.B. King says I play the gigs for free. They pay me to travel. I do the shows for free. They pay me to deal with my in-laws and my mother.
The fallout of your jokes.
I tell anecdotes about my parents on Kimmel, and my mother is like, those were lies. I'm like, this is what the money's for.
It is weird.
It's so good.
It's also weird when they let you know that they've heard about it.
Yeah.
Like they'll work in weird little side things. Like, and I don't know why. So in this world, I guess in a way, they're things that are super attractive to some people. Like, oh, I can't wait to go tell this person that I heard them talking about me in a bit.
Right.
Versus me, who would never want to bring that up, like ever, to somebody who brought my name up. That would be weird and uncomfortable.
Yep.
Sort of like the close cousin of the person who sees you at the party and goes, do you remember me? You don't remember me. Do you remember my name? What's my name? What's my name? And you go, I'm really bad with names. What's my name? Do you remember? I'll give you a hint. It's like, oh, it's so uncomfortable, but yet
why are you doing
they're
it to
so
us?
titillated by
it.
it.
Like it.
They get off by
it's the part of you that kind of wants to put alcohol on your butthole and see if it burns a little bit.
Yes.
Or the Dead Sea.
Yes.
Either one. But those people sort of like a light burn. They want to feel slightly uncomfortable.
I've talked to family members on rare occasions about it, and they'll go like, yeah, what you said about so and so was pretty tough on them, and then they pause and they go, I get it because it's happened to me. Like, meaning, like, and you've done it to me, too.
No.
And then they do this weird shit where they go, I know what it's like to have people come around and poke you in the ribs and go, I heard what Adam, whatever.
Yeah.
And now it's weird because you want to go, like, what was I saying? But you don't want to say, you don't want to know what you were saying.
He called me a drunk.
Right.
Well, I just did an impression. My producer on Crashing is the best producer in the business. His name is Igor Strubchik. And he has a Russian accent, and I did an impression of him on my podcast, which is called You Made It Weird, and Fred Armisen was the guest. And I did it for like 10 minutes, just because we were talking about accents and how funny it is. And it just went, who are the people sending just an isolated version of the impression to him?
Yep.
Why? It wasn't mean, but don't you realize you're just putting me in a position where I have to, like, he's going to come up to me now and be like, I heard you did impression. Here I am doing it again.
Right. That's
and
it.
Who is sending the clip of me shitting on my parents on Kimmel to my motherfucking parents? What is the thought there?
My thought is only 4% of them actually hear anything or see anything in real time. The other 96% is provided by assholes who go,
that's right.
I just thought you should know
These are the
that
same-
your son-in-law
Yeah.
was calling you a cunt
Yeah.
on Kimmel.
Yeah.
I just thought, I
Can't
thought,
I have my-
thought you should know.
My cloaked revenge.
I know.
Have a nice cloaked revenge.
I don't know who these people. Who are these people that grab these little snippets and they send
They're
them?
the
Out of
same
context.
people sending the forwards that said, God wants you to forward this to 12 people. Heaven's going to be a ghost town the way things are these days. Have you noticed the news? Have we taken a moment to be neighborly? Forward this to 45 people.
You're so circling back to hell. And the real version of hell is not having the conversation about being
Isn't that
tormented. It is, because if you say to just folks, like you're at a Christmas party and you're doing like your version of hell where you go, oh, the internet was down.
Right,
So
right.
I had to call Verizon. And I was on fucking hold for like 18 minutes,
Then
you
it's
know, and
heaven.
then the person just comes back and goes, well, let me tell you what happened to me.
Yeah.
I got a Tesla, right? I told the guy, my guy works. I said, plug it in. Because I had to go to LAX. And I said, guess who didn't plug in the Tesla? Guess so. So
I had to ruin
I
it
have
with one of those car OK stickers.
I have 11 miles. LAX is 17 miles. I got to plug this thing in at like 6 a.m. now because like everyone likes to
Right.
give their version of it.
Yeah.
Imagine if you were chained to a wheel and they were like hitting you with needle nose pliers on your
my
pubes. Like
God.
how much you need to
to
tell.
talk about it. But that's the part that they can't play the whole bit. You got to watch it if you want to hear the whole bit. But the end of the bit is
Dak Sheppard with Chris Hardwick.
So your dad owned a bowling center and a bowling cathedral and
Yep.
in Memphis.
Yep.
And then in Florida?
No, that was my grandfather's.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
And then you eventually, and this is to me where things get dodgy if I'm you. You move from Memphis.
Episode 7 doesn't know how to turn his
So
phone off
Yeah,
yet.
yeah. Well, I was having that crisis.
Chris is here. Do not
God.
do that.
Yes, I
Jesus.
fucked it all up. You moved to Colorado in high school.
My mom remarried. My parents divorced. My mom remarried the guy she married, who was a wonderful guy. We moved to Denver, Colorado for a few years.
How did you get the one wonderful stepdad? That's kind of, that breaks the mold.
I cannot tell you how lucky I feel. Now, both my dad and my stepdad both died, but he was a good guy. My stepdad, Jim, his name was Jim Hills. Great guy.
And was he? I want to ask a silly question.
Please ask a silly
He
question.
was he
Dishonor their
intimidated?
memory.
No.
Now that I said they're both dead.
My father has passed too. Okay,
Okay,
get over
dead dad
yourself.
club. All right.
Yeah.
Hey, you're not so cool. My dad's dead too.
Yeah, mine was 62. How old is yours?
Shit. Yeah, made it to 72.
Yeah, okay. But Jim was the stepdad?
Jim was a stepdad.
He wasn't intimidated by your father's prowess as a bowler?
Well, what's interesting is that Jim was also a professional bowler for a while.
Get the
way.
fuck out of here.
But Jim was also but he was a lefty. Left-handed bowler.
Oh.
And then but he gave up bowling shortly after he and my mom started dating, but he was like a scratch golfer and he was just a crazy good athlete, but also he was a lovely guy because he knew how to be a dad, but he was very respectful that he knew he was not my biological father,
Yeah.
but he also treated me like a son, but not in a way that was like, you fucking listen.
Yeah.
He was just a good guy and very supportive and he was just a lovely guy.
Well, I got a whole new respect for the business of stepfathering when in that year I wasn't in between Kristen and the 9-year girlfriend. I dated a woman with a son. What happens, what is very hard about it is I fell in love with this little boy. And now, because I love this little boy, I want him to turn out well. If you see something that they're doing that you think is going to result in them being a shithead, you feel compelled to correct the behavior. And it's just a big no-no. You can't really do that as the non-biological father.
It's also kind of strange. I mean, and I'm not a parent, so I don't know what the fuck I'm talking about, but knowing when someone is doing something that is not going to have a good result, you want to tell them and go, this is going to get fucked up if you do it this way. But that also, they don't learn that way. And then if you fuck it up because you told them, you made them aware of it, it's almost like the Matrix thing of like, would you have broken the vase if I hadn't told you about it?
Right.
You damage the experiment by observing the experiment.
I just feel like you and I have had about 10 conversations at this point, and I feel like you've brought up the Matrix in almost all of them. Do all roads lead back to the Matrix?
Did I? Or is that just what your
program is telling
Yes,
me?
exactly. When we get pulled out of this, you
Yeah,
make
we
me
did-
think of the Matrix.
We did, because I look like Neo so much.
You look just like him.
Yeah, because we talked about this notion that people have that we're living in a simulation. And my point, which I don't think you agreed with, was only people with awesome lives think we're in a simulation. Like of course, Elon Musk is a big proponent of this theory. I've heard him talk about it a bunch. And I think, that for Elon Musk, it must feel like he's in a computer-generated world because there's no way he's that successful and has invented this many things. But I don't think there's a coal miner right now digging in the coal going, this is a fucking simulation, isn't it?
I'm just in a coal mining simulation.
I just happen to be the unlucky guy who got stuck in the coal mining simulation.
Unless he loves being a coal miner.
That's what I was about to say.
I think
what
that's,
a
I think
privilege.
No. I think that's patronizing and placating and what else? To pretend that there's a coal miner who fucking loves coal mining.
It could be patronizing to say that there's no way his life is good.
I didn't say his life. No. I didn't say his life wasn't good. I said the job sucks. Look, I've had those fucking jobs. I was a roofer. I detasseled corn. They weren't good, fun jobs.
Can we just call him out for saying that's a very narcissistic point of view? That just because he doesn't like it means that no one else can like it.
Please call him out always.
I call you out.
They call that naive realism in anthropology. That you can't comprehend someone in Africa doesn't want a microwave. Coal mining versus owning Teslas, probably. I think we can. We don't have to pussyfoot around that. It's probably better to own Tesla than fucking work in a coal mine and get black lung.
Also, is it,
now I'm getting angry.
Then there's sort of the subtle difference between working in a coal mine and mining that type of fuel and then an electric car.
It's kind of a deep, it's got an allegorical.
So there's so much more. But I don't know.
So
I don't know if we unplug from the Matrix and Elon Musk is a guy in a mailroom who's getting, pistol whipped by a bad boss, and then he jacks back into the Matrix and he's like, I'm the smartest man in the world.
Yeah, I've privatized space travel.
I go to space. Let's make tubes underground.
So you moved to Colorado.
Yes, sir.
Right, and that's for high school.
Mm-hmm.
No, I changed school districts in high school, and I found that very hard. Did you
liked
find that
it.
hard?
No,
you did.
I did because
You're
my
a
family.
Dick. Your stepdad ruled. You loved changing a whole new high school.
Bowling.
You think coal mining's an awesome job?
I think it's rad.
I'm with you there.
I do too. I think we moved a handful of times when I was growing up. And so, this thing would happen with me where I was almost popular for being unpopular in the sense that, I was in chess club. I did play D&D.
Yeah.
And so in those days, in a pre-internet era, you really only could relate to like maybe 3 or 4 other people in your entire town. And then that was it. You did not have the joy and beauty of digital communities to connect with other people and support you. Yeah. So what would happen is we would move, and every time I would become, I don't know if this is going to make sense to you, but I would become Capital City Millhouse for like a minute, where I would be like, I like people didn't think I was a dipshit. And then I would just slide back into my old, like I could not maintain the facade and all the obsessions with video games and sci-fi and stand-up comedy, like things that most other kids at that time were not into.
Yes.
And I know it sounds strange to say that, but that's true. Most other kids were not into the stuff that I was into. And so it always gave me a chance to start over.
Yeah.
And I enjoyed that, even though I knew I was going to fuck it up.
Right. I had a very, very steep decline. I was cool in junior high, and then I switched schools and started 9th grade with a short long. How
can you not be cool with a name like Dax?
Look, when you're cool, it works, and when you have a really bad short long and bad skin, and you've grown 3 inches and lost 10 pounds, and you're named Dax, now it all backfires.
Sure.
Mine was like it went from having a blast in school to being miserable.
Yeah. Oh, and in the worst. Like during puberty too, the worst time to not have a good time. I was
6'3" and 149 pounds, acne, and just the worst haircut you've ever seen.
But I think, and I look back on those days, on those really awkward times where I felt like it sucks to be socially ostracized. I don't enjoy not liking other kids because I think they're into dumb things. And then when I look back on that, I think, well, that was so significant because if I had been popular in grade school, then I would have peaked because it wouldn't have occurred to me to be introspective in any way or really drive me to try to excel.
Well, you would have ran the risk of being content. Like life would have been good. You would have had a bunch of friends and probably wanted to stay in your town.
And then at a certain point, life doesn't get so easy, and you don't have as many of the coping skills because things came very easily to you when you were young.
Yeah.
And I mean, I'm oversimplifying. Everyone has a fucking struggle, but ultimately, and then at 25 or 30, you're like, what the fuck?
Yeah,
and you don't know,
No, yeah. I mean, in one of the Malcolm Gladwell books, it talks about...
Which one? Blink?
I can't even keep track. I've read them all. But there's a chapter on dyslexia. And for decades, it was known that if you were dyslexic, you had twice as likely to go to prison. But then they've later found out that you're also twice as likely to be a CEO of a company. So it's one of those things that
like
either
it was Blink.
Destroys you or makes you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I think that's why I kind of tell people the things that you think are flaws actually make you unique. And those are actually weirdly your strengths.
Yeah.
The things that when you look in the mirror and you see some weird version or something, or you obsess on one thing, number one, most people don't also see that thing because they're obsessing about their own things. And number two, it's probably just sort of a weird conformist evolutionary piece of biology in your brain that makes you think like, I need to be this to be accepted. But then hopefully you start to realize like, no, that thing makes me unique. And that is the thing that makes me, that provides the strength that I actually need.
But to your point about the biology, I do think people vastly underestimate the fact that we are the ultimate pack animals. Like we think of dogs, we know dogs are pack animals, and then we go, oh, because they're pack animals, we can train them this way.
But we own them.
Yeah,
right, dogs?
Good point.
Nice
Good
try,
point.
dogs.
Yeah, my analogy breaks down completely now that I remember we own them. But we're even more social than them. You know what I'm saying? So you can do these things to a dog and go, oh, well, the dog needs to know right away. Is it alpha, beta, gamma? You know, this is how you're going to train this dog. It has so much hard wiring to be social, to live in a pack, right? We have even more hard wiring for that. So our
not just live in a pack, but I think a dog also has a drive to be in a social hierarchy.
As do we, though. You look at every primate, which we are a primate, and they have the most clearly defined strata of hierarchy, you know?
Sure.
And we too have that. So I think so much of our preoccupation about status and success and all these things, they're fucking carryover bad genetics that helped us for years.
Yes. Well, because ultimately, I mean, if you really think about that, part of a human's biological directive is to preserve your genes. I'm not saying that's all people are, supposed to do or meant to do, but I'm just saying if there's biological programming somewhere in our
increase your fecundity
limbic system that says, I have genes, I need to make sure and in order to do that, I need to be accepted by a group. In order to be accepted by a group, I have to have certain skills or I have to do things so that I can show and I think it's part of the reason why sociopaths are so attractive. And narcissists can be so attractive because, well, maybe not narcissists, but sociopaths, because when someone doesn't need you, you are instantly attracted to them because I think on a biological level, you go, oh my God, they don't need anything. They're not injured.
They don't need my approval.
Right.
And that tells me, oh, they're above me.
Yes.
Because I'm only seeking the approval of people that are above me. And when I walk into 7-Eleven and there's the guy with the parrot on his shoulder, I'm not praying that he tells me he likes how I parked.
Hope he doesn't meet the lizard guy.
But if Michael Schumacher's walking out of 7-Eleven, I'm like, I hope he notices how well I parked.
What if he had a parrot? Would you be excited about that?
Michael Schumacher, yeah, he could get away with having a parrot.
But a kick that I've been complaining a lot lately is just about how I think social media and the internet upends all of that. And as much as I love it, I mean, I really do think that I'm crossing my fingers that it all nets positively, but just in the way that it encourages people to communicate is very toxic. I'm concerned that a lot of those biological mechanisms are being applied to a paradigm that it preys on all of the weaknesses of our evolution.
Yes, all of our wiring is vestigial to that new high-tech paradigm.
Yes.
And my big concern with it all is this, you used to live in a group with 200 other humans, right? And you lived with all the guys and the women all lived together. This is how we lived for 150,000 years. And you were going to be the best at something.
Right.
You were going to make the best spears. You were going to, something you would stand out for, and that would give you self-esteem. And now you're in a group of literally 4 billion people if you're on Facebook. So the odds of you being the best at anything, it's impossible. You'll never, also you're dating and if you live with 200 people, you can pretty much guess who's the best gal you can get.
This is and I'm sure we talked about this when you were in the podcast, but this is exactly why I am so fascinated by the Dunning-Kruger experiments.
Yes.
Which basically,
are you accusing me of suffering from Dunning?
No, not at all.
That I know the least about this topic and speaking the most about it.
That's exactly right. Is that idea of people needing to be the best at something. And so having people speak as experts when they don't know something is not just because they're being dicks. It's a biological, and also the idea that people who are ignorant about something, not stupid, but I mean ignorant of actual facts, they are too ignorant to know that they are ignorant about something. Yeah. So they need to believe that they are experts in order to fold into culture and society. And so, when people get all superior online, a large percentage of them genuinely don't know exactly what they're talking about. They've pieced a story together that they need to believe in order to allow themselves to function.
Yes.
What's that good quote? You told me about it, about smart people and dumb people.
Greg Fitzsimmons and Joe Rogan.
Living, and some will not. We'd like, no matter how much Obamacare kicks in, there's always going to be a privatized version of it where, you can put up $500,000 and cure something.
Yeah, there is going to be that issue, right? There's always going to be the issue of people having more, people having access to something that other people can have access to, and should they be able to?
Right.
That's
it's a
where
crazy big question.
Well, it becomes even bigger, actually, with the subject of transhumanism, because one of the things that I learned in doing this show is that we went to this Global Future 2045 initiative, this conference rather, and what they're working on is a bunch of different technologies that are going to allow people to live a substantial amount of time. Maybe thousands of years. What they're saying is the person who's alive today will be the first person who lives to be 300 years old.
Now?
Yes,
Today?
People that are alive right now will be the first people within their lifetimes. Perhaps within our lifetimes, there will be technology that not just halts the aging process, but actually reverses it. Gives you young skin, reverses brain damage. They're working on reversing damage to neural tissue. They're working on being able to create, they have these artificial blood cells that are the same size as a blood cell, and they're going to allow you to hold your breath underwater for 4 hours. This is within our lifetime. This is within a decade, by the way. This is Ray Kurzweil, too. This is not crazy people saying this. This is the guy who, author of The Age of Spiritual Machines, and he's the subject of that documentary, Transcendent Man. And, he was telling me that, this is within 10 years, they're going to have these blood cells. They're going to inject them into your system, and they will be so efficient at processing oxygen, you'll be able to take a deep breath and go to the bottom of a pool for 4 hours.
Wow.
He said it's coming. And he said the real issue is going to be the use of them in athletics, and that regular athletes, it's going to be silly to have regular bodies.
And because injuries, a big part of being an athlete is managing your injuries, and there won't be injuries anymore.
And recovery.
You'll just play.
How hard can you train, and how much willpower do you have to get up in the morning and train when you're tired and sore and force your body to get into shape?
Right.
You won't have to. You're going to have to fucking get an injection. You fly over the moon.
Yeah, it's amazing when you think about it. And then what we're waiting for is, I guess there'd always been population controls in place, whether, pestilence, war, what have you. And now we've gotten to a point where there's all these things that are enabling life to continue and grow. It only leaves global warming. There's going to be the big correction.
That's where it gets weird, because that's not what they're saying. The trend amongst the people who are actually paying attention to the statistics as far as the elevation of society and what happens when societies get elevated into first world societies. Well, one of the first things that happens is people start having more important careers. And in having more important careers, they have less children.
Less kids.
They have less children. There's far more children in less developed areas like India, areas where there's extreme poverty. They have more kids, and they also have more kids because they need someone to take over the family, to take care of the family, take care of the family name, and that's a huge issue with them. What they're seeing is in trends where once economically deprived areas are becoming more successful, they have less kids. So, in fact, the worry is that we are going to have a low population problem and not an overpopulation problem within the next 100 years in developed areas.
Developed areas.
But the real question is, how long before the undeveloped areas or the third world areas become developed? And the trend is pushing towards that to happen.
Right.
If you look, there's places that never had cell phone signals before, and you see these incredibly poor people, and they're all having cell phones. Most of the population has cell phones now.
But that doesn't make them develop because there's no work.
But it's a trend.
Right.
And it's also a trend that in these areas, industry starts moving in, and they start taking advantage of the workforce and this use of unskilled labor. And like, look, if you call customer service for Dell, you get fucking India. You know, and the idea is that this, even though it's impoverished and bad now, that this trend will continue, and that these areas, if taken care of correctly, will become more developed, and hence the population will drop. I'm not sure if I understand it or agree with it, but what I do know is the main guys that are following the trends of overpopulation actually say that this is an issue in developed areas.
Interesting.
Yeah.
But do you believe that there will be like a West Nile virus or avian flu or even an AIDS that will significantly take a toll on the population of the world?
We actually did an episode on that, and we actually went to a level 4 lab in Galveston, Texas that had Ebola. They had hemorrhagic viruses. They had these 4-foot thick concrete walls of bulletproof glass. We had to go through all these jumps and loops, security clearances. We had to wear suits, the whole deal. Oh, yeah. It was pretty intense stuff. I actually didn't wear the suit because I didn't want to even deal with it. To go into a specific area, they had to put this vacuum sealed thing on. I'm like, nope. I go, you can show me people doing it. I don't need to do that. I'm not going to do a stunt for a TV show. But we did have to go through all these various protocols and not go into certain areas and not touch certain things. And they showed us how they clean the air. And they said that these are the people that are in charge, is that the real worry is not nuclear energy. The real worry is not terrorism. The real worry is biology. The real worry is something like the Spanish flu that comes along, some new thing. There's something called MERS right now, MERS. It kills 50% of the people who get it. And right now it's limited to the Middle East. But
is it airborne?
No, I don't believe it is. I don't know how it's transferred. We should probably Google that. It's called MERS. But when we were talking to disease experts, infectious disease experts, like, this is a serious fucking disease. And if this disease somehow or another started spreading in mass like the way the flu does, you could have, in Manhattan, you could have 8 million people dead. Like if this hits Tokyo, you could have 4 million people dead.
Middle Eastern Respiratory Syndrome. And they say that that would be in the province of Al-Hassa in eastern Saudi Arabia. And 58 deaths have occurred, acquired by person-to-person transmission in intensive care units. That's where it's spread. So stay out of the hospital.
By the way,
sick.
That's another place where a lot of people are catching incurable diseases like MRSA.
Right.
Medicine-resistant staph infections.
Right, staph infections.
They're getting staph infections they can't cure, and they're getting them in hospitals.
No, staph infections, that's the biggest thing. And as you start to see emergency rooms are going to spring up all over the place now because of Obamacare. They're not going to be sterile.
Going to be everywhere. 30,000 fucking people a year die from that, from medicine-resistant staph infections.
Yeah.
It's incredible.
And once it spreads, it's like, did you see that movie with where it spread around the world very quickly? What the fuck was it
World
called?
War Z?
No, before that. It was about
Outbreak?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was fucking
Dustin
crazy.
Hoffman? Yeah.
Because it was none of it was a stretch.
Mm-hmm.
None of it seemed like, that'll never happen.
It just hasn't happened yet.
Right.
I mean, in the history of the world, in the history of biology, the 1918 Spanish flu, that's nothing. That's just a blink ago. That's
and it
nothing.
killed 1 out of 5 people in Europe.
And it killed mostly healthy people.
Right.
It's really interesting. It was more devastating to people that had a powerful immune system. If your immune system was healthy, you were more likely to die from it.
But it was the Spanish flu, but didn't we send it over there?
Yes. Well, they call it the Spanish flu, but it actually originated, the first known case of it was in a military base in Kansas.
Right.
Virginia? Might have been Virginia. I think it's Virginia. But that was the first known case. And it started affecting soldiers, and it started killing these young, healthy soldiers. And they're like, this is crazy. These guys were healthy, and then a week later, they're fucking dead. Like, we've never seen anything like this.
That shows you how
before.
good the PR machine is in the U.S. Call it the Spanish flu.
Yeah. Blame the Spics.
The Spics did it. They're taking our jobs.
They're taking our jobs, and they're killing our young men.
There's there's a lot of If you ever go to Kansas City, there's a World War I museum there that's incredible. It's like the war that I didn't know anything about till I went to that museum.
Well, what they were talking about with this transhumanism thing is that with people with a lot of money, that's going to be a real issue, that they're going to be able to live forever. And the people that are poor are going to be able to die off. And then what happens then? What happens when you've been alive for a fucking 1,000 years and you're accumulating resources for 1,000 years? What shot does a baby have of getting a free steak in this world? A young person who grows up and like you've rigged the entire system over the course of your influence of 1,000 years of accumulating gold nuggets and fucking lobbyists. I mean, what power and influence are you going to have? It's going to be pretty fucking substantial. You think about like the Rothschilds and the bankers of today.
Because they essentially have always existed as if they were one human life.
Exactly.
They just pass it on quietly and secretly.
Inside the family, and, people have trust funds. And I have a friend who has his wife's friend is this fucking really, really, really wealthy guy. His family is this incredibly wealthy. They own just a gigantic. I don't want to say the name. They own this gigantic company, and so this guy, his whole life, has grown up with millions and millions of dollars. His family's multi-billionaires, and this guy has no ambition.
Right.
He is a 45-year-old fucking loser. He's a loser, man.
Right.
Every penny his parents give him, he tries to invest in something, loses everything. He's lost millions of dollars in investments, gets into the real estate and just starts buying real estate right in 2007, buys it at the top of the market, loses everything. I mean, this is like what this guy does. He went through, not only did he have a trust fund, but he had a backup trust fund. He blew through both of those, and now he has a job. And of course, the job is within the family. And he's got a
Dude,
job.
I am taking my kid's college fund and buying a Challenger tomorrow. That's all I need is now. And I really think about that with, we were never supposed to pass down wealth, and there was a reaction to that kind of European dynasty when we started the Constitution. It was like there was supposed to be a high death tax.
Yeah.
It's called an estate tax. Now they call it a death tax because it makes everybody think like it's going to happen to them. No, it's happening to that little fraction of people that can keep you down by just surreptitiously, keeping they're unchallenged. Here's the thing, I'm fucking bumbling because I get really upset about this. If you really think that your genes are so special that you deserve billions of dollars, let your kid go out into the workplace on an even playing field. He should come home with tons of money, right? Isn't he special? Isn't he related to you? Then why does he get the lottery twice? You're born into a family that has billions. You get the best education, nannies, vacations, whatever. Why do you then hit the lottery again when you turn 21 and get a fucking trust fund?
There's a good point to that. And this guy, when he talks about it, he's pretty open. And he said, whatever you do, never give your sons money.
Yeah.
He goes, because it kills all their ambition. And he's a very unhappy person.
Yeah.
He was very wealthy. He's it's all normal now. I mean, he has a regular job within the company, and I'm sure he probably makes six figures. But you're talking about a guy who had this house on the beach in Malibu. I mean, it was on Broad Beach, which is what they call Billionaire Beach, and he had 200 feet of fucking sand beach in front of him, and this castle overlooking the beautiful Pacific Ocean. Lost everything. Can't keep it together. He's got nothing. He's not a man.
More money, more problems.
He's not a man. If you were on a ship with him and the ship hit an island, he'd be the first guy that'd be a problem. He's got no character. He's just never had to develop. When you think about who you are, and I think about the struggles that I had to go through in life to become successful and to be at a point where I can buy things like a nice car and not have to worry about stuff or have a nice house. How did that happen? Well, it happened because I failed a lot. And I went through, and I had no money, and I had no backup plan. I had no net. There was no way that anybody was going to bail me out of it. There was no money in my family, so I had to develop the character to get things done. And if you take away a kid's fear of failure, you take away that safety net, you take away their opportunity to develop character. And it's kind of fucked up that we want to save our kids from danger and we want to protect them from adversity, but that's the only thing that makes you understand who you are as a person. You have to go through difficult shit to kind of figure out what's bad about getting dumped? What's bad about getting fired? What's bad about losing your car, getting it repossessed? What's bad about not being able to eat? What's bad about
what's bad about seeing your friends all have something that you don't have? Yeah, and that's the thing I struggle with my kids is I want to give them, like I just got the new iPhone. I gave my son the other one.
Thank you, folks, for listening. Tune in next week for more podcasts of all podcasts.